let's hone in on kind of a root cause issue, right? So all of the things you talked about, you just listed there, the pollutants, the chemical contaminants in our food, in our water, the use of pesticides, herbicides, the overuse of antibiotics, for example, the high processing of foods, the fact that the majority of people aren't really even eating real food. They're eating non-perishable, food that can sit on a shelf for 3 years in a plastic container that is full of additives and all that haven't actually been tested on the human system. And then of course you mentioned the stress and so on. All of those things we know are bad for our system, and most of those things end up being bad for our system by affecting the microbiome, right? And that's a key component to all of this because we have so many variables, right? And it can be very overwhelming for people because you sit in your house and you go, oh my God, I just listened to this podcast, I just listened to that, I listened to that. Everything around me is killing me, basically, right? Including the stress and everything. And then you turn on the TV or you go online and all the politics and geopolitical issues and wars and all those drive a lot of stress and angst in people. It becomes overwhelming that there are so many things assaulting our system on a daily basis. Which one of those things do you deal with, right? Where do you start? Um, and what I like to offer to people is kind of a distilled down understanding of how all those things affect your system so that even though you may not be able to control all those things, you can control how it impacts your system, right? So that's really the key here. Right, you're not going to be able to stop all the pollutants in the air. You're not going to be able to stop your exposure to Roundup and glyphosate. You're not going to be able to stop your exposure to microplastics and radiation and all these things. But what you can do is try to exert some degree of resilience so that your system can deal with these things better and it doesn't dismantle your whole health and wellness, right? And a lot of that comes down to revamping your microbiome and building some resilience within your microbiome. And weight is a perfect example of that, right? We've been spending billions of dollars. I think in North America alone, the estimate is around 70 billion a year on weight loss solutions. And yet obesity rates keep climbing, and obesity rates in younger and younger people keep climbing as well, right? So we're clearly not doing something right. It's not all about just the how many workouts can you do and the exercise, and it's not necessarily a willpower only issue. It's that people who are struggling with weight just don't have the willpower to say no to cupcakes and so on, right? It goes way beyond that, right? There's some fundamental things here going wrong, and all the things you mentioned and I mentioned that are affecting our system are things that can affect our weight in a very significant way by impacting the microbiome.